Welcome back to theCUBE's continuing coverage of the SAS Innovate 2025 conference. I am Scott Hebner. I'm here with my colleague, Paul Gillin. And Paul, we've talked to a lot of people today.
We sure have, and it's been fascinating.
A whole bunch of different perspectives on what's all going on here, and it seems to all come together well. What we're gonna do today is bring in a CIO perspective, and I'm happy to introduce Jay Upchurch here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I think we'd like to hear a little bit about, the more holistic view of what's all going on here, this notion of composite AI, and maybe you can start by just defining what that is.
Maybe let's take a step back for a second. The struggle, I think, for all of us is very real for adoption of AI, how to do it, what the right pace, the right sequence. And then I'd also say the opportunity is very real. So when we think about, again, the advantages, the competitive advantages that a company can gain by deploying artificial intelligence and in a meaningful way to meet your business enterprise needs is a great differentiator for everybody. Composite is actually composite AI is the way that we think about it, that there's not really just one AI technique that meets the needs of everything. Earlier in the keynote today, you heard Brian Harris talk about sprinkling the pixie dust of generative AI to solve all your world's problems. And when we run an enterprise, like for instance, my job at SAS, I have to think about fit for purpose. What's the right AI technique? Remember, Gen AI is just one of many that you have in your toolbox. You may use computer vision as an example. You may want a different type of artificial intelligence technique to meet the business need, again, to hopefully achieve your AI ambitions.
So is composite AI an architecture, or is it more of a state of mind?
It's state of mind. It's philosophy at the end of the day. I think what we saw in the industry, called the last 18 months, we were all enamored with what the capabilities were for Gen AI. And so we started trying to take generative AI and use it to solve every problem that came in front of you. And so we spent a lot of money, unfortunately, as an industry, chasing problems that were actually probably better served with other types of artificial techniques. So again, back to like this idea of intelligent decisioning. Generative AI is going to give you an answer. It may not necessarily be the right answer. It could be 80% directionally right. In enterprise, where we need an intelligent decision made, that's not the right answer. You don't have the choice to be right or wrong there. Think for example, SAS, we have such a wonderful, rich history in health and life sciences, drug development. Patients' lives are at stake with the answer that our data and our math gives you back. You don't have the choice of being, partially correct there, right? So those types of things, you got to figure out what's the right technique in the right moment for the business problem that you're trying to solve. So what I think is happening, at least in the CIO communities that I'm running in, there's a lot of people kind of taking a step back and figuring out what's the right technique, again, fit for purpose to meet the business need.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense, because generative AI is not necessarily designed for making decisions, right? It makes predictions, it's statistical probabilities. And, what I'm hearing out there is a prediction is not a judgment. You need to make judgments to be able to make decisions. And so you got to augment the generative AI with extended models and capabilities. I think that's exactly what you're getting at with composite, right?
Absolutely. We think about it the exact same way. The other thing we think about too is, again, fit for purpose for the need. So if it's an experience of an employee, a human with an assistant, right? Generative is great. So that's employee productivity. We've seen that now for, again, the last year. Microsoft Copilot leading it. They own the workspace that everyone is in, obviously, because they own the desktop. Next step would be, okay, now I've got humans with an assistant. And in that case, it's a human leading the assistant and what they're looking for. So think about it as I'm engaged with an agent. I'm asking it a long-range problem. It's coming back with an answer, but I'm involved in the outcome of what that looks like, and I can tune the answer as I want. And then, of course, kind of the third phase, if you're walking through that maturity stage, is going to be, okay, now we're into agents. And that's where, like what we talked about earlier today around our intelligent decision capability, that agent that has been tuned and modeled, but it is doing the work for you, and humans are more overseeing it, and as opposed to leading it, if you will, or engaging with it just as you would with an assistant.
Is there a risk of whiplash? By that, I mean, here today, SAS talked about 4 or 5 different kinds of AI, and a lot of organizations are just trying to digest generative.
Yeah.
Is there the risk of taking your eye off the ball, the basic blocking and tackling of what IT should do? The business intelligence, the basic data analytics.
Yeah.
Chasing after this sort of shiny new object.
There is, and I think that's always been the plague of a CIO. we get enamored with technology. We get enamored with shiny toys. Suddenly you start to go over there and you're making a lot of investment, and then you realize, hey, wait a minute, I had a mission that I was supposed to achieve for the business. So that's been a struggle, especially with the cost basis a lot of times of some of these new AI products. So there is the risk, I will guarantee that. I also think that we all are starting from a different point.
Right.
And that is like the biggest, I think, challenge. One would say, okay, hey, the technology is moving at such a rapid pace, it's difficult to keep up. The other part of it is that we all are in different places. What does your data estate look like? Is it well governed? Is it secure? Also, where is the direction coming from? Is it employee driven because they want tools to do their jobs better, be more productive because they hear about it from their neighbor? Is it top down from a CEO saying we're not going to do anything unless it's AI driven? So I see that in our customers that we serve in our SaaS Managed Cloud Services business, because they come to us in different forms and readiness. And so if you think about the person who's sitting on their couch and they're like, I want to go run a marathon, probably not ready for that yet. Might want to do some stretches and some calisthenics first. We have customers who come to us and like, yeah, we want to jump right to agentic. Well, hold on. Is your data ready for that, right? Are you ready for that? And then the last one, I think back on your point around CIOs and some of the things we struggle with, is the best technology with the best intentions can land poorly if you're not ready for that enterprise change management. So what's the problem? Humans. Are we really ready? Are we going to embrace it? Are we going to run with it? The great thing about what we're seeing right now in AI in our space is that it is becoming more and more pervasive. And the more people use it, the more their mind starts changing. That's not me showing up as a technologist saying, hey, I got this great thing and I want you to start using it. Now they're coming and thinking about, hey, my curiosity has led me to new places. Now I need you to help me kind of, again, deliver it right to the enterprise.
Yeah, it's sort of like the back in the internet days, the browser gave you access to the online world. Everyone got familiar with it.
Yeah.
Right. And businesses started to very simple web, presence, right?
Yeah.
With generative AI, now everyone's getting it to experience the power of AI. It's sort of a gateway into the world of AI.
Right.
And people are doing things with generative AI to automate tasks and help people get more information. But I think the real value is going to start to become when you start to architect around that. And I think that's where you get into all these, AI technologies, which Gen AI, as you said, is just one of them.
That's right.
Right. And that's where the power is going to come from. But everyone now has, like everyday people, everyday workers, they know the power of AI because Gen AI.
Because of Gen AI. And it was targeted at us almost as consumers, like curious consumers.
Right.
When ChatGPT first came out, it raised the kind of the collective awareness of society. And then people started trying to figure out, well, how do I apply that to enterprise? And I think that's part of the reason why in the business setting, there was a lot of money spent up front in research and chasing problems because you had cool technology, back to the shiny object problem. I think what we're seeing now is people are applying the technology in the right ways and to solve the business problem they're looking for. I think for us, again, are you a fast follower or are you out there leading on the edge, and how much is your budget willing to cover? I think it also comes back around to, is it a top-down, driven initiative, or is it coming from the bottom up? And in our case, what we're trying to do, we're trying to take a pragmatic approach. We think about it, again, like I said, employee productivity. Number one, that's an easy one. We want to make sure everybody's aware of it. I have the gift of working inside of an amazing company where our awareness and understanding of AI is probably a little higher than the average company. So I have very demanding customers. So putting tools in hands to raise their awareness and understanding is one thing. The next thing is, all right, how do I, again, make it where humans are interacting with agents in a way that is a long-running process that might start to change business processes? That opens up kind of a whole nother category of work. And then the last would be, okay, now we're taking those and we're making those agents. And those agents are starting to do the work that we have humans doing before. Right. Back to this idea of, okay, what are we doing with intelligent decisioning as an example? That last step in maturity and the way we're thinking about it is really a game changer in how you run your business and, frankly, the cost that it takes to run your business.
Well, when we were talking before we started the cameras, you mentioned change management as a major goal. The barrier really is humans.
Yes.
Now, you've gone through a lot of this at SAS. You obviously have a technologically sophisticated workforce, but what advice do you give CIOs for preparing the organization for the introduction of these tools?
It's interesting. If you go back, we're all a pattern matching machine, right? At the end of the day, the way we think. We always talked about like data literacy, and then we went into, okay, well, now we want to get into analytics and AI literacy. I think that's really where we're going. It's continuing to raise the collective awareness of what it is. It's not just, ChatGPT where I can use it almost like a new fancier search. It is truly thinking about how I can interact and ask it questions and interact with agents and let it do the work, the mundane work for me. And then I love this idea that agents can do, people are concerned about job replacement, I totally get it, but they can do these jobs and free us up of thinking about other things. There was an example of a customer that we were talking to, again, about back to this idea of change management. And they want to basically have agents that act like employees. And so as a manager now, thinking about, I manage a workforce of 100 people. Well, actually, what if 20 of them were digital agents? And I'm tuning and training the agent to be better, but I'm still professionally managing career management, call it the other 80 people that are in my shop. Those types of changes are very real and interesting. So then the question is, well, how do the employees handle, oh, okay, I see this job is now driven by an agent, but my other job now is something different. That's where I think the industry at large is kind of working their way through that right now. I will say this, budgets are under intense pressures, right? We know what's going on geographically right now. I think agents and the way that artificial intelligence can come in and disrupt helps answer a lot of the challenges that we are all facing. The question is can you get there? Can you get there safely? Can you get there with trustworthy, innovation as well?
Yeah, in my conversations, there's two sides of the coins here. One is that it's about labor savings, right?
Yep.
The other is about giving superpowers to your workers so they can do more.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to say the superpower thought comes across twice as much as simply replacing labor.
Yep.
So I'm not sure I buy into this, AI is going to take everyone's jobs. Just curious to your thought on that. It seems to me it's going to be a major productivity boost.
Major productivity boost. Everything that we've done in our own shop looking at employee productivity gains through the use of things like Copilot and integrations in, it absolutely gives back, again, kind of the gift of time to our employees. The other thing is it's beyond just a help me in my unified communications experience, wanting to take action for those employees in applications that they would normally have to stop, context switch, log in, remember how to do it. Any of those kind of actions that I can take that off your plate and you can just ask your digital assistant to request that time off, enter your time entry, anything that's kind of, again, required but mundane, let the agent do the work. That's an immediate gift of time for you. On the other hand, jobs, like total jobs where, like we'll take responding to RFPs as an example. You have a format that comes from a customer. You have a library of information that's unique to your knowledge domain. How do I mine that knowledge domain, give me back a generative answer that's perhaps better than what was previously done, and the human is in the loop then to review. I've just made that employee more productive, and frankly, the quality of their job and the quality of their work higher. That is a beautiful thing in a business. And then the last one, obviously, would be the full agentic side of things.
What are some things you're doing with AI within SAS? What are some of the cool projects you have going on?
You can imagine we have a few across our enterprise. I mentioned employee productivity. I won't go back to that one. On our campus where we run, our shop, as an example, in Cary, North Carolina, we have computer vision in action. We have a solar farm that feeds power to some of our buildings. Solar farms sometimes aren't as effective as you would want, whether or not it's chasing the sun or the effectiveness of a panel. So we fly a drone, we look down at it from a computer vision standpoint. We know exactly when we need to go in and take action to maintain it. We use flywheels as an example for backups. We wanted to get away from battery a long time ago from an environmental standpoint. Those flywheels make noise, and we can detect based on noise if they're starting to need maintenance. So instead of paying a recurring maintenance fee, we can go in and through harmonics and figure out, like, now's the time. Let's call a technician out and come out and do that maintenance for us. So we, again, back to this idea of composite AI, we look at the business problem, the use case, and come up with what's the right AI technique to meet the need. And then we figure out, okay, how do we go deliver that in a cost-effective way, again, that meets the business objective.
So let's fast forward to say it's SAS Innovate 2028, 3 years from now. What do you think we're going to be talking about?
Oh, I don't know. I felt like we did a pretty good job this morning.
Yeah.
Trying to stay ahead of things between the quantum and obviously the intelligent decisioning and everything else that we're doing. The digital twin capability in manufacturing was fantastic. I love the pace that we are moving at, both as SAS, but also as the industries that we serve. Predicting what's going to come next year is really tough.
Hard, isn't it?
I would tell you, there are three things that make SAS special. I think number one is we love setting the pace of innovation for this industry. We've been doing it for 5 decades. Number two is the customer base. Look around. You said you've talked to a lot of people today. They inspire us by telling us how they're using that innovation, and that gives us the fuel to want to go do it and come back next year with the next thing. And then the third thing about SAS that's so interesting is our culture. Our culture attracts the best top talent. Our customers, again, give us inspiration, which feeds that talent, and then that drives back into innovation. That's the flywheel of success for SAS and has been for the last 5 decades. To me, that ultimately will help us come up with what's the next thing for 2026 for us.
There's no doubt the innovation cycles are moving at warp speed, right? If you think about it, it's only been, 3 years, 2.5 years since Gen AI came on the space. A year ago, we weren't even talking about agentic AI. So it is kind of hard to look forward. But I think you got the right idea here. There's a lot of technologies that are going to come together, and we'll keep tracking it.
Yeah.
All right, we need to wrap up. Any last questions you want to?
Nobody's mentioned robotics.
Okay.
All day long today. Is that because it's not in your flywheel? It's not in your wheelhouse, or is it because that technology is not moving at the pace that other AI is?
It's a good question. It's probably not quite keeping up yet. I think there was a lot of early gains on it, and then I think it's kind of slowed down a little bit. People started chasing other places first. I have a feeling it'll come back. You can, even in the example earlier today with Georgia Pacific, getting back around to these autonomous ground vehicles and what are they doing, you can imagine those getting much more intelligent. Again, merging in different AI techniques to make those machines a little more sophisticated. I can see it coming back around. Maybe that's
maybe 3 years from now.
Maybe that's coming back around in 2026. That's fair.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we'll be back, and we'll be talking about that. All right, Jay. Thank you very much. It's been fascinating. Paul, once again, thanks for being here and talking with our guests. And for all you, thank you for joining us. We are the leader in tech news and analysis. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon.